She's pleased to see me when I go, and I only hope that in her heart she really does know I do care. She must know that, no matter what she says. She must know I care.
On the South Devon coast, just outside the remote village of Tor Cross, there's a farm where the land runs down to the sea. The farm is owned by the Rue family. They saw Gale's interview on Man Alive and decided they wanted to help. They had children of their own, but Herbert and his wife Florence felt that they wanted to show Gale a different kind of life, and twice they had her down to the farm for a short holiday.
To begin with, it was a case of just wanting to let her see that there was a better side to life, you know, and that life could be lived to the full, and it wasn't just something desperate to be got over as quickly as possible.
How did you feel about her, considering the fact that you have young children in the house yourself?
Well, it didn't occur to us to begin with that there was going to be any danger, but after having spoken to some relatives about having her, and they said, oh, you know, I wouldn't have those children in the house and things, I asked the people who we liaised with in London, you know, about the risk to this. Of course, our children had to come first, and they said, oh no, they thought she would probably smother the children with love rather than be at all vicious or anything, you know. She was very happy with the children, yeah. They often talk about her still.
Reginald used to go for walks with her?
Yes, and out in the field in front of the house. They walked around hand in hand together and would talk, and just like two friends. They always wanted to go into her bedroom first thing in the morning to wake her up, you know, to have fun and games. They crawled all over her and pulled her hair and never gave her any peace, really, did they?
No, they like playing with Gale.
When she was here and she saw you with your children, did she ever make any comment about this?
Well, yes, the first, I think it was probably the second day she was here, I was scolding them for something. You know, I wasn't cuddling them or anything, but I was scolding them about being naughty, I think. And she looked at me then and she said, you know, it upsets me to see you with the children, because if I'd had a mother who cared for me as you care for your children, I wonder how I would have turned out. I wouldn't have ended up like this. And it struck me then because it wasn't as though I was holding them in my arms or anything, but that I was scolding them, you know, and the fact that it seemed to be this side of caring that she'd missed as well.
But holidays don't last forever, and soon Gale was back in another institution, Tooting Bec Psychiatric Hospital. She'd gone straight to Piccadilly, stolen money from a news vendor's stall, and was sent to a drug dependence clinic here. Most patients were old mental defectives, and in her unit she was surrounded by other addicts. But her thoughts often returned to the farm in Devon.
Dear Florence and all, I've been in another hospital since Monday night because I overdosed on barbiturates and they just brought me back today. I didn't really mean to do it, and I don't know why I did. I think I'm never going to come off drugs while I'm in this hospital because I'm just with other junkies all day and all we've got in common is drugs. I want to get off. At least I think I do, but at times I get so fed up I think I just want to die, and to me drugs seem the best way to do it. I wish I had somewhere to go when I do get off, because then at least I'd feel I had something to come off for. I wish Christmas would hurry up and come, because I was so happy when I was down there with you all. I really was, I mean that. I can't remember when I was so happy.
She wasn't to see the countryside again, nor play on the beach where she'd known something of the happiness of being a child. Had Gale ever indicated to Farmer Rue and his wife that if she'd been able to stay with them, it might have made just the difference?
Well, obviously we wonder just how it would have turned out, you know, and naturally we think, well, should we or shouldn't we? But when we think of the children, I think we couldn't have really done anything else, you know, from our own children's point of view. I mean, if they'd been older, perhaps been away at school, or you know, it may have been different, but the fact that they're so little, really.
The The hardcore heroin addicts, almost beyond help, were now her only friends. She met them underground near the all-night chemists, where most of them took their prescriptions for drugs. Gail was now 18. She wasn't to know, but her last summer had ended, and by the time autumn and the dark nights came, her dependence on drugs was complete. This was how she lived the last few months of her life, in between spells in hospital. These were her friends, reduced to tramping the streets, looking for a place to rest. These were the ones, some seriously ill, all addicted to hard drugs, all young people who knew her best of all in the months before she died of barbiturate poisoning. Can you explain how a girl like Gail Parsons got onto drugs in the first place?
She got on the drugs the same way as we all did.
What's that?
Looking for kids, I suppose.
Looking for the filth of this world, that's all. The filth of this world, getting away from it.
But what kind of a life is this? I mean, sitting here on the pavement, or you're down in the toilets, or you're hanging about Piccadilly Circus. Gail did all of this.
Yeah, well, Gail was in hospital for quite a while before she died, you see, you know? But Gail did this. She used to come out of hospital and come up here and hang about all day and go back to the hospital the last thing at night, you know, really sort of in a bad way, you know, through barbiturates. And the hospital knew it, and there's so many people coming out of hospitals, you know, in the daytime and going back in a state at night. And they come out the next morning, you know? And that was Gail's life, you know, for a long time before she died.
She was discharged by the hospital, just at a moment's notice. And she rang me up and said she was going to be discharged, and she was terrified. She was absolutely terrified. She rang up 3 times on the night that they told her she was going, simply terrified, and apologizing for getting me out of bed and saying, I can't settle.
What was she terrified of?
Well, she was terrified of going out. She kept saying to me, you know I won't be able to manage. You know I can't live in a flat. You know I can't live in a flat on my own. It was a death warrant to put her out into society at that point. She wasn't ready to go out.
Ready or not, Gail was discharged from hospital, and the authorities found her a bed-sitter above a shop in sprawling South London, miles from anyone she knew. One night, under the influence of drugs, she couldn't have known what she was doing. She set fire to her clothing and the flat. So the landlady said she must go.
On the Monday, I was aroused by the police to say that the flat had been found ablaze, and she in it. She'd been taken to King's College Hospital with multiple burns, none of which were severe. By the time I contacted the hospital, before 10 in the morning, she had discharged herself, against advice. And from that moment, she rang me twice. Each time she rang me during the night, about 3 in the morning. And the first time I answered the phone, said, is that Gail? And she said, yes. Where are you? I'm in the dilly, and I'm high. And I said, why didn't you ring me? You said you would. You could have come here to sleep. And she said, I've taken enough from you. I should finish it this time.
And how long was that before she died?
That was the first time, was on the Tuesday. On Thursday of last week, she rang me again about midnight, and I said, where are you? And she said, it doesn't matter, and if you ask me again, I will ring off, because you might be trying to trace me. And I said to her, you know, how are you? And she said, oh, I'm finished. I shall be finished. And I said, well, come to Morden, and I will collect you. You needn't be finished. And she said, no, but you will come to my funeral, won't you? And I said, oh, I'll be pushing the daisies up when you have your funeral, Gail. And she said, no, you won't. I'll be having my funeral soon. You will come, won't you? And I thought she was just high, although I really knew she was very bad. I could tell she was very bad. And I didn't hear. Then she rang off, and I didn't hear any more till the police told me she was dead on the Tuesday.
She'd been out of hospital just 8 days. When the police arrived, her body was huddled in this armchair. She'd put a blanket round her legs for warmth. Janet Bruton was one of the other addicts who invited Gail to share the basement hovel in which she died.
So next thing in the morning, Richie found her. You know, I told Richie to wake Gail up. And
Who's Richie?
this is Richie sitting next to me. And Richie apparently said that she had took an overdose. This is what we thought at first. Then the colour of her face was a blue, greyish blue.
Blue in the nose, pouched.
Blue in the nose and her pinched nostrils. And I was shaking her, and Chris, my boyfriend over there, turned around and said that leave her alone, she's dead. Which I didn't believe, you know, I couldn't believe it. So I got panic and I ran out to the flour mill and I asked someone to phone the police as there was a death in my house. And I come back there and I kept staring at Gail, you know, and I kissed her, you know, shocked, you know, just seeing her like that. I still couldn't believe she was dead when I seen her. I thought she was alive, you know, until they actually took her away in the ambulance.
How long had you known her?
I've known Gail for about 3 years.
How did you get to know her?
Prison.
Can you tell me how Gail's days worked out at that time? What she did from getting up?
Well, she was with me. We went to the chemist. We used to go up Piccadilly. Then we'd go down to the APA, sit down in the APA.
The APA?
Which is the Association for Prevention of Addicts, run by Mr. Tony Sharples. Then me, Gail and Shirley and Chris, we'd go to a movie, see a movie.
What time of day was this?
This was in the afternoon. We'd come back here at night, have our last fix, use some barbiturates, go to bed, wake up. Then Gail would maybe be sick, you know, but she'd try and laugh it off, you know.
Janet thought she knew everything about Gail, but there was one thing she didn't learn about until after Gail's death.
I was very surprised when I knew Gail had a mother. I come back one evening and my brother said that my sister-in-law said, Gail's mother and grandmother have just been round here. I offered them in for a cup of tea because they were very shocked and upset. And I says, oh, you're lying. I says, Gail never had a mother. And they says, no, Jan, have you seen this woman? This woman was so upset. It wasn't mother, you know. And she says she'd just been down to the mortuary to see Gail and so I says, that's funny. I says, Gail always told me she was an orphanage.
We should have had the means, either here or elsewhere within the service, to be able to help Gail without rejecting her. She desperately needed somebody who wasn't going to. And this means different kinds of provision.
She was, in fact, free to do as she liked when she left here.
Well, she wasn't free when she went to the approved school, but as she moved out into society and as she was discharged from the various institutions, from prison, from Boston and so on, yes, she was a free agent. And in other words, she was free to kill herself. She was free to go on the dilly, she was free to go on the drugs, and short of stopping her in some way, she was free to die.
Are you saying that in a permissive society we must allow young people like Gail the right to kill themselves?
Well, this is a very difficult moral issue. You see, I think this is an issue of social policy. This is an issue of how far society is prepared to control people's movements in order to save themselves. I don't know. It's not an easy one to answer. One would say, for the sake of Gail, yes, we should have stopped her, but how? We could take her off drugs if we put her in prison. But if we put her in prison, we're merely teaching her to live in an enclosed institution. And maybe this is the only place in which she could have survived. I think it's a very difficult question to know whether society is prepared to control its deviant members, or whether in doing so we would not infringe a whole range of liberties which might be a danger to the total liberty of the subject. It's a very difficult question.
Here was a girl who had so much intelligence. She was a girl of so much quality. She was a girl who retained a capacity to love in all her despair, and who, when she was saying to us, I have destroyed myself, could still say to me at the end of December, but you loved me, didn't you? You didn't just like me, you loved me. Why? She was really still saying, oh, I might just have managed.
But need she have died?
It's very difficult to keep somebody alive who feels they haven't anything to live for. When she said to me in Charing Cross, after she'd said, I shan't be able to help small children now,